Last week, Schumacher received the news that he will not be competing in Formula 1 the following season, after Haas decided to not renew his contract and chose to pair Kevin Magnussen with free agent Nico Hulkenberg. Schumacher is now considering his alternative possibilities for 2023, such as a potential reserve role, as all of the available slots on the F1 grid have already been filled. And there is one team that once pulled back his father from retirement that is now willing to take the gamble on the young Schumacher. And this team is no other than the mighty Silver Arrows. Do you think Mick Schumacher will be able to raise the bar in Mercedes and possibly become an asset to the team? And maybe one day, could you see him taking over from Lewis Hamilton? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Before we dive in, let's take a look at Schumacher's last race in F1 for now. In the season-ending race, Schumacher unfortunately span out when he ran into Williams driver Nicholas Latifi. And this wasn't the first accident caused by the Haas driver this season. One of the reasons that Haas decided to let Mick Schumacher go has been the number of damages the driver has caused over the season. Next to this, the driver hasn't been entirely able to outperform his teammate Kevin Magnussen. And thus, in the last race, where Mick already knew he was leaving, he had another minor crash. When Schumacher collided with Williams' driver, both drivers spun. While both were eventually able to continue, Latifi had to wait in the pits for a damage examination and eventually had to withdraw due to an electrical problem. Schumacher concluded his farewell race for Haas in 16th place after receiving a 5-second time penalty for triggering a collision. In general, with these cars, you don't really have a big overview of what is happening in your surroundings, said Schumacher when asked about the incident. I mean, the tyres are super high, the steering wheel is in your face, so he outbraked himself a bit, went wide and then came back onto the track, and I didn't expect that, to be fair. And I just simply didn't see him. So frustrating at the end. I still managed to get kind of some good laps in, but by the end the tyres were just gone. So yeah, a frustrating one. Not the best, but we'll look ahead. Asked if he accepted the penalty as fair, he said, "To be honest, I don't really care." Schumacher admitted that it hadn't been his best race for the team. On the one lap, things always look a bit different because you can, as a driver, really get everything out of it in the race. It's a bit more difficult in the race. I'd say just because you have different components, wind changes, tyres, the moment you lock up. The tools, the systems, everything has to be perfect to get the best out of the race. And simply today, that wasn't the case. He insisted that his final outing didn't feel different. Not really, actually. I was surprised. It didn't feel, for one, that it's the last race of the season. And two, it didn't feel like my last race. So again, my mind is pretty much set on coming back in 24. So what is the secret about Mick Schumacher and Mercedes? Well, Wolff earlier stated that he would approach Schumacher about a position only if he lost his Haas seat, because he felt that Schumacher deserved to remain on the grid. And what did Schumacher have to say about this? "Mercedes is an awesome brand, and what they've achieved in Formula 1 is incredible," said Schumacher after qualifying in Abu Dhabi on Saturday. "For sure, I'm looking at my options, and Mercedes is part of it." Wolff expressed his desire to sign Schumacher again earlier in the day, pointing out the close relationship between Mercedes and the Schumacher family. Michael, Mick's father, began his career racing sports cars for the German automaker before making his 3-year F1 comeback in 2010 with Mercedes. This prominently lifted the view of Mercedes in F1. "Mick is someone that has always been close to our hearts because of Michael or the whole Schumacher family," said Wolff. "Ralph was in a DTM for a long time for us. His son races Mercedes in GTs, and Mick is an intelligent, well-mannered young man. He's been very successful in junior formulas. We believe that we can look after him if the situation were to happen, and with someone that just fits the team, but we haven't really put pen to paper. We haven't really come anywhere close to any terms. I'm seeing it that openly because I think he just fits, and now we need to make it happen. If he wants to, Sabine, Kem, that's Schumacher's manager, wants to, and then we can see where that goes to." Asked about the family's significance at Mercedes in light of Wolff's comments, Schumacher said, "My dad did the switch from Ferrari to Mercedes at the time. I don't see a right reason why not the same right now." Again, as I said earlier this week, I have time now, so I will consider all the options that I have to then hopefully make the right decision for me. But it's definitely very humbling to hear what Mercedes and especially Toto says about me. As its existing backups, Nick de Vries and Stoffel van Dorn, are both leaving at the end of the current season, Mercedes needs a new reserve driver for 2023. Next year, de Vries will join AlphaTauri and compete in Formula 1 full-time, while Van Dorn will act as Aston Martin's backup driver. In addition, Mercedes missed out on recruiting Daniel Ricciardo, who is leaving McLaren and has joined Red Bull as a third driver. And while multiple family members of Mick have chosen to drive in DTM, Mick ruled out the move following the news of his departure. No, just no, Schumacher told the media, in response to a question about switching to DTM. Because I don't want to right now, I want to stay in this paddock. Whatever comes around, I'll have to obviously have a look at it. But right now, with DTM especially, it's not the same as it was in the past anymore. So right now, it's not an option. It seems like Mick is really going all out to stay around in the paddock for 2023. And Mick Schumacher has been advised by his uncle Ralf Schumacher to accept the rumoured offer of a reserve driver position with Mercedes for the upcoming season. Mick Schumacher was left without a racing seat in Formula 1 for 2023 when Haas decided to recruit Nico Hulkenberg to the team, with Kevin Magnussen for the upcoming season. Toto Wolff, the team principal for Mercedes, expressed interest in acquiring the 23-year-old in the weeks before the Haas selection. Ralf Schumacher, an analyst and former Formula 1 driver who is Mick Schumacher's uncle, thinks that Mercedes' educational achievements would be too wonderful to pass up. For Mick, this would definitely be a sensible step because he can work with a team that has a lot of experience and can help Mick progress, Schumacher said in his column for Sky Sports Germany. The process at Haas and Mercedes are different, and that is something Mick can benefit from. It would definitely be important for him to work with a team like Mercedes, to do simulator work, to learn from Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, who have both won races, or in Hamilton's case, world championships. That would be an incredible wealth of experience for Mick to gain there. Ralf Schumacher continued, saying that Mick would only benefit from learning from a driver with as much expertise as Lewis Hamilton. The former racer for Williams, Jordan and Toyota added that Mick will experience greater assistance at Mercedes than he experienced with Haas. In terms of age, Hamilton has now reached a stage where he can pass on a lot to young drivers, continued Schumacher. All in all, it would be simply incredible for Mick to work with these two drivers, and with such a team, especially because they want him. It's hard to put it in any clearer than that, as Toto Wolff has done. It's also a new experience for Mick after such a year, to finally be in a team that stands behind him. So do you think Mick Schumacher will end up as a reserve driver for Mercedes? And will they do this because they want to put Mick in a Mercedes-powered F1 car for 2024, to see if he would be able to fill the gap that Lewis Hamilton will inevitably leave behind? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to read your take on Mick Schumacher's future. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.